Hi, Stitchers. Welcome to Tatreez Talk, where we share conversations about Palestinian embroidery. I'm Lena, here with my co-host Amani, chatting with talented embroiderers and artists, sharing their stories, inspirations, and the cultural significance behind their work.
On today's episode, we are chatting with Anna, a musician, student, Tatreez artist, and teacher. Welcome to Tatreez Talk.
Thank you so much for having me.
And
We're
Anna and I are
excited to chat.
Yes, Anna and I are actually friends. And we'll talk about how we got introduced to each other. It was through Tatreez, so it's very fitting for this episode. But Anna, we always like to kick off our episodes with asking you, our guest, about you and your family's connection to Palestine.
Yeah, of course. So I am half Colombian, half Palestinian. My mom is Colombian. My entire dad's family is from the Bethlehem area, so the city and surrounding villages. My family left Palestine in three stages. The first people who left were around 1929, 1930s. And my great grandmother and my grandfather's family left in 1948 with El Nakba. And my grandma, and they came to Bolivia, actually, not Colombia. And my grandmother, my great grandmother, couldn't take it. She wanted to be in Palestine. So they actually went back. And then they left for the last time in 1967. And that time they knew they probably weren't coming back. So they came to Bolivia because there was already family there and there was already a Palestinian community there. And then they stayed. And then they came to Colombia after my grandfather found a job here. And then my dad was born here, so actually I'm second generation. But I've always felt the need to connect to Palestine. I've always felt like it was something that was really missing in my life. And I did not grow up with my grandparents. So I never had that immediate connection with Palestine, but I always felt it. But I never felt it so strongly until beginning of 2023, actually. So before the genocide. And I did not know at the moment why I felt such a strong need to connect to Palestine. Of course, I know now why I was feeling that, but it was just really strong need. So I started looking into any way I could to connect to Palestine. And that's around the time where I also found Tatreez.
That's interesting. So my mom's side of the family has kind of a similar story. Like my grandmother has kind of a similar story in the sense that like they left Palestine and they came to Brazil. And my grandmother was like, I need to go back to Palestine. My mom spent the first 4 years of her life in Palestine. Like she was born in Brazil, but raised there. And they left in 67 and they came back to Brazil and, then just stayed. So it's interesting how many Palestinians wound up in South America. Like it's really interesting. I think especially like there are so many. Last year we talked to Ahmad from Chile, and there is such a vibrant and large community in South America, especially from people from Bethlehem. So do you have a Palestinian Colombian community that you either grew up with or are now kind of like have reconnected with as an adult?
There is a large Palestinian Colombian community, but it's not like that united, honestly. I mean, I didn't really know any of them. Like my only connection to Palestine was like my dad and my great
Yeah.
uncle. But I did started getting a little more connected to them in the past few months. So I've come to know some of them and it has been really sweet. But yeah, I did not grow up with them. Like my family was the only like connection to Palestine I had, but many of my family are not connected to Palestine so much either. So it was mostly my dad and yeah, my great uncle.
So is your dad's side, like, is it just your dad and your great uncle who's in Colombia? Is everyone else kind of Bolivia or Palestine still, or everyone is close by?
So Dueri is one of these families in which like everyone who has the same last name is the same, like is from the same family.
Yeah.
So I don't know how many like cousins I have, honestly. which is, I guess, is a really Palestinian thing.
Yes.
Yeah. Like you meet someone who's Palestinian and you start talking and it's like, oh, we have the same last name, we're cousins, cool. Um, yeah, but honestly, no, like I just know like my immediate family, some of them are here, some of them are in Bolivia, but I don't really know the ones who live in Bolivia. So no, I just know like my closest family here.
I'm also curious that you said, like, you felt this urge at the beginning of 2023 to really reconnect with your Palestinian identity. So growing up, what, like, I guess, how did you see your Palestinian identity growing up before you reconnected?
Yeah. I really felt like it was something I was missing. I remember in school I had a friend and she was also Palestinian, but my family are Palestinian Christians and she
Mhm.
was Palestinian Muslim. So even in our classroom and everything, they always knew and they always recognized her as Palestinian, but no one talked to me as like a Palestinian. No one recognized me as Palestinian because we're Christian. So
Mm.
I always felt like I wanted people to know I was Palestinian, but I didn't really know how to approach that conversation because I didn't really know a lot about Palestine or what the identity meant. And also in our classroom, we also had another classmate, and she was Jewish, but not only Jewish, she was Zionist. So that was also a whole thing. I'm not gonna get into it. But I really felt that I wanted people to know that I was Palestinian. I just didn't know how to approach it. And yeah, it was not until beginning of 2023 that I really started researching and trying to connect even more to that heritage.
It's also now I have an interesting like relation to this or something that's making me remember my something from my childhood because I felt it very similarly. I didn't really get called to learn more about my Palestinian side very like intentionally until 2011 when I went to Palestine, which is a very different kind of exposure to the Palestinian experience. But I remember like knowing that I'm Palestinian, but not really sure what that meant for me. And I always remember I like someone reminded me like recently that I in middle school I was in the US and I was in middle school and I had a Jewish friend who now I know is Zionist, but I didn't have the term Zionist at the time. I didn't understand what that meant. I didn't really know the difference between Israel and Jewish even at that time. And so we did this whole project together. And I look back and I'm like so not embarrassed, but like so upset that I didn't have more knowledge on my for myself. But we did this whole project about like peace, in the Middle East and like how can a Jewish person and a Arab person and Amani is making faces at me because it's
I'm
embarrassing.
dying.
It's
It's okay.
crazy.
You're
And
young.
it's crazy to think about, but I was so, when you're 12, 13 years old
Yeah,
and
you're a
you're
baby.
in this classroom and no one else around you can teach you about your Palestinian identity and everyone else is being fed the Zionist narrative. Like it's so crazy. And so like you're reminding me of that experience because now I don't think I would ever talk to this person again. I know their name and I haven't really kept in touch with them or anything, but it's um it's crazy because a lot of us who maybe don't have a strong Palestinian community or have a very like strong Palestinian voice in our home to help us understand this and help us connect individually to Palestine as our own individuals, it's hard. Anyways, you're reminding me of this experience and of like my evolution as someone who now identifies very strongly as Palestinian. But I'm curious about like what was it in early 2023 that triggered this? Like, was there like I get it. I completely understand what you went through, but it's more about like what was it that triggered this for you? Like I'm
The
curious.
spark.
The spark, yeah. Like I know Tatreez was your gateway, not spoiler alert, but what caused you to even explore Tatreez to begin with? Do you remember?
Yeah, before that, I don't want to one up you or anything, but that friend was like in my classroom with me. And like she went to the birthright trip and everything. Like it was that
Yeah.
kind of. And sometimes we were in like history class or something, and she would have to do projects. We would have to do projects, and she would make projects about like how important Israel is as a homeland of the Jewish people and stuff. And she would ask me to correct her grammar on the project, and I would be like,
Oh,
and I saw it, and I felt like this was wrong, but I didn't know how to approach that conversation either. So I was like,
yeah.
could you ask someone else? Like
Yeah.
just yeah, I can't say really what was at the beginning of 2023. There was like the spark. I guess it was just maybe like a snowball thing. I had been connecting with Palestine mainly through like my main connection to Palestine in my life was like food. Like we did have Palestinian traditions, as in, always in Easter we would eat mamul, like we would
Love it.
be with our Palestinian side of the family. But in 2023, it was just like I really have like I have this need that I want to connect with Palestine. I really have to do something about it, and I have to connect actively with my Palestinian identity. And yeah, then I found Tatreez. So
That like the perfect segue.
yes,
Like
or more
less
specifically, I
than
found Lena. Like
you found Lena. There you go. Lena was your gateway drug.
I am so proud to facilitate that.
So I mean that leads us perfectly to kind of like the start of your Tetris journey. Like how did Tetris come into your life? How did you begin learning about Tetris? Let's dive into that.
yeah, so the first time I saw Tatreez was on Instagram through Susi Tamimi. Because one of the first things I did to connect with my Palestinian heritage, I started like looking for Palestinian people online because I didn't have many around me. So I saw Susi Tamimi and I was like, this is really interesting. But I had never like wanted to get into embroidery. I had never held a needle in my life. And I saw her and it kind of stuck in the back of my brain. Like that is something cool, I guess. But I didn't really consider it like too much. The first time I saw an actual thobe, and at the moment I didn't know what it was, and this is crazy to me. I feel like at the moment it was also horrible, I guess. The first time I actually saw a thobe like in person was in the British Museum, which is insane. But I think that's also like colonization and
Totally, 100%. Yeah.
things. Yeah, but I saw the thobe and I was also like, this is a really beautiful dress. I love that it's Palestinian. I have to know more about it. And both of those things kind of stuck in the back of my brain for a while. And then I don't remember what happened between that time and the time I saw that Lena was going to do her Tatreez 101 class. But then I saw that Lena was going to do that class, and something in me was like, I have to do this now. I didn't even know what it was because I had never been interested, like remotely interested in anything like it. But I saw it and I was like, I have to do this now. So I signed up for the class and, well, obsession ever since. So
The gateway,
as it
Lena.
goes.
Amazing, amazing. So, okay, you started doing the 101 class, and then clearly, like the floodgates opened.
Yeah.
But when you started kind of stitching, in the very beginning of your journey, like I'm curious to understand, like what that was like, what that felt like as you're reconnecting with your Palestinian identity, you're now like learning a traditional Palestinian art that you weren't familiar with, like not that long before. So like, how did that start shifting your relationship to your Palestinian identity?
It was, I think the first thing was that it opened so many things about Palestinian culture to me that I had no idea about. So I knew some things about Palestinian culture, but not many things. And starting to get into Tatreez and learning about the thobes, learning about the embroidery, and that leads to so many more subjects. Like that leads to learning about community, about the villages and village identity, about geography, the geography of Palestine, about traditions and generations of passing one thing from one generation to another. It was just learning so many things about Palestinian culture I didn't know before. And that just felt like reclaiming something I needed my entire life. I just didn't know I needed it, basically. And it was just, yeah, obsession.
I love the way you put that too. Like, Tatreez, I think, for me, I grew up in a very, very Palestinian household, but it's also, even with that, I still feel exactly what you were talking about. It's like the Tatreez does open up like an even deeper connection to Palestine. Like, as you're talking about, you learn about geography, you learn about these villages, you learn about these customs, which is really, really cool. So obviously you started your Tatreez 101. As we said, it was your gateway, so you've kept going. I know that you are working on a thobe. Is that correct?
Yes, then Lena also came out with the thobe course, and I was like,
You're welcome. My absolute
gateway.
pleasure. Yes.
after that, it was like everything Lena does, I'm gonna do it. Like, I'm sorry. But then, like, when I decided to do the thobe course, I had only been doing Tatreez for 1 month. And I was
Yeah.
like, I
Yeah.
don't care. I'm gonna do a dress. Like, of course.
Okay, I am so glad you said that because I was gonna call it out. People don't understand. Anna has been practicing Tatreez for about a year as of the recording of this session. And she has already not only like learned Tatreez, she's not only started her own thobe and gotten into sewing, but her back, Amani, you would be so freaking proud of her back.
I
If
have
You're
one.
you gotta send me pictures.
I can show you.
It's
Yeah.
Let me see.
remarkable. It's absolutely remarkable. So she's showing for those who are
Habibi.
listening.
Oh,
You can't even
we're gonna
tell.
share pictures.
You literally
We're gonna
cannot
share
tell
pictures.
what is the front
A
and what is the back.
dream.
So it's just absolutely amazing. And like when people say it's in your blood, like Anna is the perfect example of Tatreez was within her. It was passed down from all of the tetas in her lifeline. And it's just such an honor for me to kind of see it come to life and see what she creates because she's so creative. Okay, I also I want to be mindful of time because we can talk to Anna about all of her Tatreez projects, but
I know.
I also really want to touch on her her different passions coming together. So for those who don't know, Anna is actually also a musician and she's getting her degree in music. Anna, please
All
share.
the talents.
Yes, Anna, please share more about that because you recently published on YouTube a beautiful track. Anyways, I'm not going to say anything. You share with the world this beautiful thing that you're working on.
All right. Yeah. So, yes, I'm studying music composition in Colombia. And the music I make is not like, how should I say, commercial music. It's not like I don't create songs or albums. I work in something that is called, it's a genre that is called contemporary music. And I was talking to my teacher about like how to define contemporary music because it encompasses such a wide variety of things. And if you Google it, it probably would say that contemporary music is just what modern musicians do. But it's also a subgenre of music. And the way we try to define it, at least for the purposes of getting into it, I guess, this is by no means an exhaustive definition. We were thinking about how to define contemporary music, and we thought that our question in contemporary music is the material in itself. So if we're talking about painting, for example, it's like other musicians, other songs, they like sound for them is the way to achieve a piece of art. So if it were a painting, music for them would be, I don't know, the acrylics or the oil or the pencils. In contemporary music, it's as if we not only focus on what the painting at the end will be like, but we consider the nature itself of the elements we're going to use. So for us, the pencil, the acrylic, the oil, that in itself is art. And we try to make a piece by considering the nature of music, the nature of sounds, the nature of silences. So pieces are weird, I guess, but it's about exploration of concepts through thinking of sounds and silences as they are. So I've done a couple of pieces already, and this semester I was like, I want to do something with Tatreez. I want to join Tatreez and music. So I started thinking about how to unite these two things that are, like, at first glance, they're very different. But I started considering how there are many terms that are together, like that both of those arts use. So for example, in music, we also talk about color, we also talk about texture, we also talk about forms or shapes. So I started thinking about, like, I could try to do something with both of these. So the first thing I did was I started exploring what the sounds were when you do Tatreez, like what the sounds are just doing Tatreez, which is not like a very noisy thing. So at first it was kind of difficult to find something to do with it. So I made like two groups of instruments for the piece, and I decided to do like one group of instruments that were like the normal percussion instruments, so like vibraphone, marimba, symphonic drum, and the other one made of implements for Tatreez and for like confection. So needles, fabric, thread, embroidery itself, and a sewing machine. And I tried to find like analog sounds between both of those groups of instruments. And then it was just trying to find ways to create the entire piece out of those materials and those elements together.
I love it. I love it. And I wish, actually, Amanda, I had thought about this and I forgot to tell you. I thought it would be kind of cool to feature a portion of it as part of the episode.
Yes,
So we'll discuss,
100%.
we'll see. If anything, there will be a link to the YouTube video, but I think
Yeah.
the music kind of speaks for itself, and it's for those who like when you listen to it, it'll remind you of kind of your experience with Tatreez, and especially if you're making a thobe, if you're sewing, you're like, oh, it's really interesting to experience this art form from a very different um what is the word, like
Medium. It's a
media.
different medium.
Yeah, but like how from a
A different sense.
from a different sense, exactly, like it's a different, yeah, it's so fascinating to me.
Yeah.
I love it.
It also like kind of like, and as you're like talking about it, I'm like, this is like Tiffany's ASMR. And as you're talking, I'm like, okay, I need her to drop an album that we can all like, a very calm, soothing, relaxing album that we can all listen to as we stitch. So that's on the list.
Yeah, totally. We'll see. We'll see. I mean, I don't make any promises, but yeah, sure.
I'm gonna support it and push it.
I love it. I love it. Well, okay. And Anna, so when you were creating this piece, you made a couple of them, like with Tatreez incorporated into it. Um, were there other things that you were thinking about when you were putting it together? So like you walked us through kind of the process of identifying the sounds and like an analog version of each one of those. But are there other things when once you have kind of the pieces and you're trying to like put together a puzzle basically, like are there certain emotions that you're trying people to, like, if you're trying for people to experience? Are there I don't know, like what are you imagining that people are taking away when they listen to the piece?
I don't know what they're taking away. I guess that's part of it. Like, I want people to make their own conclusions and think about it how they will. But there was this really central concept. And to most of my compositions, there is this really central concept that I love. That is a concept that you usually hear a lot when you get into this world of contemporary music, and that is gesture, which for me is just, I could go down a rabbit hole here. But there are two main things you can say when you think of gesture, or two definitions, let's say. The first one is just like the main musical idea you're going to use to create the entire layout of the piece. But the second one, and that's the main one I try to use, is this thought of bodily gestures as something that is part of art, but not just part of art, but it is art in itself. So contemporary musicians sometimes see these bodily things that musicians have to do when creating art. So for example, picking up an instrument, preparing the instrument to play, and they say like that is art in itself. That is art in itself. So thinking of gesture, I think, is really beautiful, and it applies in all arts, including, of course, Tatreez. It is considering the movements our bodies make in the creation of art as part of the art itself, which in embroidery relates to connecting to each other, of course, in the making of our creations, because we make the same movements when we are embroidering as each other. So thinking of it, it reminded me also of what Wafa said actually in one episode with you guys about ancestral muscle memory and how we carry that ancestral muscle memory, because these movements that we do are also what our ancestors used, those same movements our ancestors used to make when they embroidered. So I was thinking of both of those when I was composing, and in the piece I wanted to represent it like both the conception of creation in the body itself as art, but it had also this additional meaning of ancestral connections. And I really wanted to emphasize that aspect, which of course is also found in contemporary music, like I said. So we decided to create a video not only to include the embroidery, but also to include this bodily gesture. And I had to devote a large portion of the performance to these particular gestures of embroidering, like creating art through the body, as an important aspect. And that is part of why I didn't say like add extra sounds to that section of embroidering. Like I wasn't making extra sounds other than like the vibraphone and the drum. But while I was embroidering, I was not making like extra sounds, because I also wanted it to be like, I also wanted to incorporate it in a way that was like natural. Like when you embroider, there isn't a lot of sound, and I didn't want it to be like an additional thing that wasn't there when you embroider normally. But I was also thinking of this concept of gesture as a visual thing. So not only as the musical gesture, but gesture, but in the body. And both to create cohesion, to properly develop all musical ideas in the piece, but also to emphasize this aspect, I had to include it more than once. So the first time I do it in the piece, it is actually related to color, because we talk about color of the sound, but also color of the thread. So what I did in that first part was that the vibraphone was creating like sounds, but with a bow, which is a contemporary technique of playing it. And while the percussionist is doing that, I am embroidering, and I lift the thread in the video because it's both the color of the thread and the color of the sound. But the end of the piece was the main part in which I wanted to emphasize this idea of a visual bodily gesture as something musical, even if it makes no sound. And also I wanted to connect it to this ancestral connection. So in the end, I wanted to add this end of the piece as just me embroidering until basically I wanted to stop. And I did add, in the end, this symphonic drum to tie off other musical ideas I had presented earlier on. But the symphonic drum there, like every time I lift the thread, it makes a sound. And it's like this low resonant sound. And the idea behind that was also to emphasize much more this aspect of ancestral connection.
Wow, I'm like literally imagining an ancestor from like 200 years ago and
Yeah.
them doing the same movement. Like that's a really powerful visual for me, or image in my mind. I'm curious how your work was received within like the academic space. Like how did you talk about this, or was this a live performance? I actually don't know.
Well, I got a good grade, so
There we go.
I I guess they liked it. Well, so this I recorded it because I had to for presenting it to the judges because that's how like grades work. Um, so I actually recorded it only with like the musician I got, which is a classmate of mine actually, and another friend of mine who is studying. Also, both of them are studying music with me, but they're in like different emphasis, we call it. They're like in different lines. So one of them is a percussionist, so that is why I asked him to help me. And the other one is he's studying musical engineering, like sound engineering. So it was just the three of us when we recorded it. But I did have to write like a text of, like for the judges, you have to write this like essay basically of what he wanted to do and how the piece was developed and all the musical ideas. So we haven't yet played it live, but we might actually do it next semester because
Very cool.
sometimes when there is like a good semester where there are few students and the pieces they make are really good, sometimes they make like a concert of the students and the pieces they created last semester, and we might be doing that next semester, so I'll let you know. And of course I'm like, the next time someone asks me what instrument I play, I'm gonna be like, I play the sewing machine, thank you very much. I play this.
You play the needle and thread.
I
That's
play the
so
needle.
funny.
What instrument do you play? I embroider, thank you.
Okay, so as you were talking about like the gestures and stuff, like with the fact that you had to be so focused on both the sound and the physical gestures, especially like as you were recording this, like has that, I don't know, has it shifted the way you stitch at all? Like, how has that affected like how you stitch on a day-to-day basis?
I guess it didn't change much in the way, I do it, I guess.
Mhm.
But it did provide like a great opportunity to really reflect on this aspect of ancestral connections and
Mhm.
how this body, like, not only do you connect with your ancestor because of like the act of doing Tatreez itself, and like the motifs are the same, like the meaning is the same, sort of creating the same dresses, but also because the bodily gestures you make, the thing you have to do with your body while you embroider, is the same as your ancestors did before you. So it was a really good way of connecting to this aspect of bodily connection to your ancestors.
I love that. And has this offered more opportunities to connect with your father on the Palestinian side? Like, I mean, I know your parents now know your obsession. But like how has like going through this process of really like you didn't just stitch. I mean, you've been thinking about Tatreez in such a deep way. And by doing it in your own way, because you are the one also interested in music. So I'm curious, like how has it shifted maybe your relationship with your father, with your relationship with yourself in general as well? I'm curious to hear about that too.
So my dad actually says that I connected him more to Palestine than he did to me, which I guess in a way it's right. Like he also felt that connection to Palestine before, but he wasn't like that connected either, I guess. He was also missing the strength of that link to Palestine and to our culture. And when I started getting into all of this, I started teaching him about it. He's convinced he's not going to embroider ever because he's convinced he has like no manual abilities whatsoever. So getting into embroidery is not a thing that's probably going to happen. But I have talked to him about dresses. I have shown him the things I do with Tatreez, and it has really gotten him into connecting to Palestine also. So he always says to me, like, you are my connection to Palestine. Like, you have helped me to rekindle that connection to our land and to our people. And like I'm learning Arabic, and he knows Arabic because his parents talk to him in Arabic, but he was forgetting a lot of it because he never has chance to practice. But now he's telling me like, you're also helping me like practice my Arabic and remember my Arabic. So with my dad, it has been like a really bonding thing for both of us. And it's really sweet because like with the genocide and everything, having someone like Palestinian around you, I feel like it's very important. So just sometimes when there are really difficult days with the news and everything, we just go to each other and we're together, and it just makes it more bearable, I guess, just to be in Palestinian community, even if it's just with my dad. And to me, this is not just Tatreez in general, but connecting to Palestine has been a really healing thing for me too. Like there were many things that happened also before I started getting more connected to my Palestinian identity, but connecting to those ancestral traditions and that ancestral knowledge, it has been very healing in so many ways.
Yeah, I definitely hear that. You know, with your reconnection to your Palestinian identity, and you mentioned a little earlier, like you've now started connecting with the local Palestinian community in Colombia. How has this reconnection through Tatreez helped you, I guess, help shape your activism and your work to raise awareness around Palestinian rights and heritage?
It has been like my journey with activism has been basically Tatreez. Let's like I was really shy. Like I'm still really shy. But before it was like social anxiety and everything. It was like I am bothered when people look at me. But after connecting to my Palestinian identity, it was like I'm still scared, but it's like first of all, I'm Palestinian. So I mean, I can do it. I can do it. We can do it. We're Palestinian. It's fine. But it has also been like, I'm gonna do anything I can for my people. And if Palestine asks me to do something, I'm gonna do it. So the first like actual activism I did on my own was starting to do Tatreez classes, actually. Because Tatreez classes was also a way of not only teaching people about Palestine and what is going on, but also like you have to see more of us than just the genocide and the colonization. Like we are a nation, we're a people, we have an identity. So there's much more to us than what is going on right now. So it has been a way to connect to Palestine a lot, and also to connect to many more people that have helped me in that creation of community and in that activism. So I have done Tatreez classes in like 3 universities already. I'm gonna continue doing classes. I have spoken at protests. I have connected to more of my people here who are also Palestinian. It has been so many things, honestly.
That is
Amazing. That's so
so
beautiful.
beautiful. Yeah, so beautiful. I love it. And I love just being a witness to like your Tatreez journey in general. So what is next for your Tatreez journey? And it can also be music related if you're doing something further with your music and Tatreez, but like what are you working on next? What's coming up in the spring for you in the summer? And maybe also tell us a little bit about your thobe.
I have so many things coming up. So first of all, I want to keep doing classes, and I'm talking about this with many people. So I have a friend. She's half Colombian, half Mexican, and we met through Palestine, which is really weird because she's not Palestinian. But I was next to her in class, and I didn't know her at the time. And I looked at her violin, and in her case, she had stickers that were like "Free Palestine," and it's a genocide, not a war, and stuff like that. And I was like, "Hello, how have I never met you? Who are you?" So we started connecting through that, and she's such an activist. She's so sweet. I love her. And she was the one who started helping me do the Tatreez classes. So I did the first class in my university, the second one in the National University in Colombia, the third one in another university. And it has just been, at this point, like if people want me to do a Tatreez class, they usually ask her first. They're like, hey, can you tell her, like, can, can we invite her to this Tatreez class? And I actually did, like last Friday, I did a Tatreez class with the Argentinian Arab Culture Club. And it was like, it was virtual, but it was like 100 people. It was like 100 people all over
That's
Latin
amazing.
America. So there were people from, like the guy who was helping me organize it was like, there are people from Argentina, from Chile, from Paraguay, from Spain, even there were some people in Europe. It was so like so many people. And so I want to do classes more often. I want it to become like a thing. And I also started considering doing courses because I've learned so much about Tatreez that it doesn't cover just one class. And I started talking to my dad, like, I want to do more things to teach people about Palestine because I feel like my country is it, I mean, it's weird. Like the government has been really good with Palestine. Like they ended relationship with Israel. We have a Palestinian embassy. Like it's governmentally wise, it's good. But people in general, like there's still a lot of Zionism, of course, but people in general don't know a lot about Palestine. Like I go to university wearing a sweatshirt that says Beit Lahem Palestine and my kufiye and like the flag, and people are like, "You're Palestinian? I had no idea." So I want to teach people more about Palestine because I think that's the main thing that is missing for people to get more activated, for people to act more because I feel like they want to do something, but they don't know what to do. They don't know a lot about the subject. So I started talking to my dad, and he was like, if we do more classes, we can start talking about more subjects like al-Thawabit, the history of Palestine, the humanitarian crisis. We can add so many more things and like look at it all through the lens of Tatreez and making it like a reunion not just in activism but through art to create community. So we're gonna do that probably. We started talking with my friend about making like a student collective or like a community specifically also related to that aspect of Tatreez, but for activism. I'm learning Dabke in the Palestinian embassy. I am
Yes.
yeah, I'm making my thobe, which yeah, we can talk about it. It's good. I'm excited.
Okay, so really quickly on your thobe, can you share with us a little bit about like what's the story that you are telling with your thobe design?
The story I'm telling, like I thought about this in those terms because again, I'm doing it with Lina, so of course. And the story I decided to tell, the first thing that came to my mind was not to do it like about my identity, which is fine, which is absolutely beautiful, and I love it when people do that. But for me, it was like I think about Colombia and I really like Colombia, but I have never felt like the need to cultivate the land. Like I like this country, I do, I love it, but it's not like that strong of a connection like with like the land, like indigenous connection, because I'm not indigenous. But in Palestine, whenever I started to think about Palestine, it was like I want to go cultivate the land. I want to go harvest my olive trees in my thobe. So I decided to make my thought about the connection between the land and the people. And that's basically the story I want to tell through my thought. So make it like the designs about the ocean, the harvest, it's gonna be all over olive branches, all over the thought for obvious reasons.
Yes.
Yeah, but
How
that's
far along are you with your thobe? Like when will we have the finished product to show off to everyone?
yeah, I'm thinking in about 4 years.
Okay, we'll follow back up in 4 years.
Yeah, no, but like realistically, I'm thinking 4 years because like I already have the design of the skirt. I already have the design of the sleeves. The fabric is ready. I just have to baste and start stitching. I'm still missing the ebbe, but we'll see.
But you
But
know, 4 years, I feel like Anna, you're really fast. If you already have the
no, I don't
fabric
think.
cut and everything. No, you're pretty quick. You should see the pieces. I mean,
I
it's
mean,
only been a year and they're
I
huge.
made the map. Like I made a map of Palestine, and it took me like 6 months to make.
Yeah, but that map was like the
But that's
size
like
of
half a
you.
thigh. Like the map is like half a thigh, and it took me 6 months. And like the skirt is going to have a lot of embroidery.
That's
Like
true.
not
Yeah, her
it's
design
not
is
a simple
heavy.
design. So if I have to do that design of the skirt twice, once in the front and once in the back, and then the two sleeves, and then the ebe, I'm like, yeah, we'll see it in 4 years. It's good. Fine.
Okay, well, I want a preview of this design because I love a heavy detailed design, so I need to see a
Sure,
preview.
I'll show you. I'll show you.
And Anna, don't you
Oh,
have like coffee beans and stuff on your design too, as like a
I
nod
do,
to Colombia?
of course. Yeah, I do have coffee beans, which was the coffee beans are like three main things. The first one was, of course, Colombia. I was like, I do have to include Colombia in my thought. It's still part of me. It's still like my mom is Colombian. I have to include it. So that is the first thing, like Colombia coffee, of course. The other thing was all my entire family, they all drink coffee, like a lot. Both my Palestinian side and my Colombian side. Not surprising either, but they're all like, yeah, coffee. I'm good. But it was like also like family. But also there is a Palestinian song called the Kahwaji, the server of coffee. And my dad and I always sing that song together. And it always makes
cute.
him cry because it sounds so Palestinian. So that was also not only a nod to my mom and her Colombian side, but also to my dad and like the connection with that song and everything.
I love
That's so
that.
sweet. Yeah, I love that. Okay, before we wrap things up, though, I do want to ask a little bit about this Palestinian Colombian community that you are building around Tatreez. Obviously, you talked about like the workshops, and I'm sure there's like plenty of non-Palestinian allies who join too. But can you tell us a little bit about the community that you're building locally?
I'm connecting to it more, I say. I have met some Palestinian Colombian people. Not many of them, but the ones I have met, it's like so sweet. So there's one of them is called Odette. She's like really famous. She has been invited to the UN and everything. I went to her like for my birthday. We met her in Barranquilla, which is another city in Colombia, and she has a collection of athwab in her house. And she took me to see them, and it was like, oh my God. I sent Lina the pictures. My face in those pictures is just like, but I mean, I'm seeing Marzalawi fabric for the first time. I was like, this is insane. So one of them is her. The other one, the main other person I have connected to, she's called Ebtisam, and she's so sweet too. She actually practices Tatreez too, which is like the first person I have met in Colombia who does Tatreez, which was amazing. So we have connected through Tatreez. And like whenever I'm gonna do a class or something, I talk to her. I'm like, you have to help me. Like, what should I say? What should I do? And we meet up like even virtually to talk about the things we want to do. We actually talked about like we're starting to plan it. We're starting to look for places. We're thinking about doing like a museum exposition about Tatris and Palestinian identity from the dresses like we have between the three of us. And we've already
Yeah.
looked for places. We are practically good to go. It's probably gonna happen next year. I'll let you know. But yeah, we'll do that too. And we're gonna need a tour guide, which is probably gonna be me.
And Anna, any Tatreez circles?
I mean, so far only the classes because I don't feel like there's enough people who practice regularly to do a Tatris circle, at least not like Tatris circle, you know what I mean? If it's like embroidery, we could probably find more people, but like specifically Palestinian, it will be a little difficult yet. But we're working on it. We're working on it.
Got a few more classes to teach to build that
Yeah,
local Tatreez community.
of course. Yeah, but it's happening.
All right. Well, of course, we always like to ask our guests at the end of each episode, what is a major life lesson that you have learned from Tatreez?
I feel like there are so many that I could probably talk about. One of them, and this probably you get a lot, but like patience. But for me, it has not been patience specifically, like in the making of Tatreez. Like when I started doing it, I knew that a design would take me a long time and that it takes a while for you to see like a lot of progress in that design. That never bothered me. Like I was fine with taking, I don't know, months to create a project. But I feel like it's more patience in the journey itself. Like when I started doing Tatreez at first, I heard all of these amazing things about people feeling like it's a magical practice and it has brought so much to my life. And at first, like honestly, I didn't feel that. Like I liked it, but I didn't feel like that magic I felt many people were connecting to when they did Tatreez. And I was like, what if I'm not doing it correctly? What if I'm missing something? And I just kept doing it. And in the end, I started feeling that magic too. But it took a while and I didn't like recognize it at first. So it was basically patience in the journey and knowing that things will bring you something meaningful in your life, but through time. And also like your journey is your own. It's gonna happen for you, just probably not in the way it happens to other people. But I have had like magical experiences with Tatreez. Like once this actually happened to me. I was doing Tatreez. I was listening to Tatreez talk, which is what you know. And
We didn't pay her to say that, by the way, to the listeners.
yeah, this is not sponsored. Um, I was doing Tatreez and I was thinking of this ancestral connection. And at the moment, I was also feeling like I was thinking of, yeah, that ancestral connection and how this was a magical practice for many people, but I wasn't feeling it yet. And then something like I felt something weird in my hand. I don't know how to describe it. And then one thought came into my head, which was, this was not the thread I used to do Tatreez with before. Like I used to, like this is not the thread I used to use. I have only used one thread in my life. Like that thought wasn't mine. It was one of my ancestors. I it just came through me, but that wasn't my thought. So it was like a direct connection. And I was like, that's amazing. But then I also found a picture of my great great grandmother wearing her thobe in Bethlehem. And that was like not only connection to Tatreez, but we have it in the family. It's in the blood. It's all good.
Okay, that's
Uh,
actually
I found
really
out
cool that you
that
have that picture, and we need to talk about you stitching that picture. We got to talk about some photo Tetris stuff because that's really
of
cool.
course, because I'm with Amani. Yeah. But then I also found out that that ancestor, like my great 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 grandmother, she has my same name. So that was also like, this is no coincidence. Absolutely.
That's
the magic of Tatreez.
seriously. No, honestly, it's been like such a pleasure hearing the way you talk about it and hearing how it's like revived your connection to your culture and your ancestors. Like I'm like my jaw's been like open for most of this because it's just really beautiful to hear you talk about it. And extremely impressive to see how far you've come along in such a short time of stitching. So MashaAllah alayki. It's amazing.
But yeah, like if
Oh,
you're doing Tatris and you're listening to this and you feel like there's something missing, like you're worried that there's something wrong in your practice because you're not feeling it yet, that doesn't mean it's not going to happen. And that doesn't mean you're doing anything wrong. Like if you're worrying that you're doing it wrong, you're probably doing it right. So
Hmm.
it's all good.
Oh, I love
There you
that.
go.
Anna, thank you so much for joining us. It was such a pleasure. I adore working with you and seeing your work, and I can't wait to share your thobe when you're done with it to the rest of the world. But thank you for the time. We so
I'll
appreciate
see you in 4 years with the thought.
it.
Well, and before we let you go, where can people like find you if they want to, see your work, if they want to hear your work, where can
And
they
if
find
they're
you?
and if they're in Colombia to take one of your classes, etc.
Yes.
Yeah, of course. Or in Latin, I mean, I've also done many virtual Tatreez classes. I have an Instagram, which is probably the main way to contact me, which is like a combination of Spanish and Arabic, which is verde, which means green in Spanish, underscore like a, underscore zaytuna, like zaytun in Palestine, but with an A at the end.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
yeah, that's probably the main way to contact me. And the how to hear the piece, well, I hope you include the link in the show notes because I
We
don't know
will.
how to make people find it, but yeah.
We will
We'll
link all
definitely
of
include
it.
the
Yeah.
links. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for like chatting with us. This has been such an amazing conversation. It's really beautiful to hear and see your journey, and we'll definitely have to continue chatting. I know we'll have more to chat about as you continue your Tatreez journey, as you continue to grow your Tatreez community locally. So thank you again. We really appreciate your time and your words.
Of course, thank you so much for having me. And like when they say that they will have you on the podcast, they're not lying. So actually, yeah, good. They are not
It's
lying. I'm
true.
here.
It's true. Oh my goodness. Yes, please let us know if you want to be on Tatreez.
Yeah,
We
let
take
them
it
know.
seriously.
Let them know because I'm here.
Yes.
I
But
love it. Oh, thank you, Anna,
Palestinians
so
all
much.
over the world who are practicing Tatreez, holler at us.
Yes.
thank you so much for having me. I really, really enjoyed it.
So obviously, you guys all know now that I met Anna through the course that I had, and I just knew, like from the very beginning, that I really wanted her to come on the show because or on the podcast because I just her passion for Tatreez is so beautiful to listen to and to hear about. Like really, she's just obsessed with it and it feeds my obsession. So I'm
Yeah.
just so happy that we made it happen. And I like when she told me about her music composition, I was like, oh, this is so cool. I love this. It's just Tatreez is everything. It's so you can incorporate it everywhere. And I loved hearing her story.
Yeah, I mean, there's like so many things I could say. It was amazing conversation. I definitely had to hold back tears
I
when she was
know.
talking about her dad and like how her dad said, like, you're my connection to Palestine. Like that's just oh my heart. I can't.
Yeah.
But it was really beautiful to hear. And I also really appreciate what she said about like Yani Tatreez opening up this door like beyond stitching, and it's like taught her so much about Palestinian culture, even from like geography and customs and traditions and all this stuff. Like I think that is just like reinforcing the thing that we always say. Like Tatreez is not just stitching. It's not just the needle and thread. It's so much more. And, I think the more you learn about Tatreez history, the more you connect with other Palestinian Tatreez artists and hear their stories, you understand and you really begin to feel like this is not just cross stitch. This is not just embroidery. Like this has like a deeper meaning and a deeper story and a deeper connection. And it's just always amazing to hear that from people. And I mean, I just absolutely love talking to Palestinians who are like all over the global diaspora. I
Yeah.
think we are both you and I are US based, both you and I were born and raised in the US. So like, we have a stronger connection to like the US based community. And from what Fatima told us, we're very loud, we're very loud about being Palestinians. I think it's easier for us to kind of find each other in a lot of ways. So it is really nice to be able to connect with Palestinians just globally, especially like in South America, you know, especially for me with my family ties, and I'm sure for you, like with
Yeah.
your
Oh my God,
Panamanian ties,
Anna
being
is
able
like
to,
my, she's like my mini me in Colombia
yeah,
because we have like
yeah,
the half
she's the
half.
Colombian you.
Yeah, exactly. I love it. The curly hair, the obsession with Tatreez,
Yes.
the Latino, like Latina mom. I love it. It makes me so happy.
So cute. Yeah, no, definitely a great conversation. And as Anna said, if you're interested in being on that podcast, you
We
know, to
will
get in
have you on.
touch. We will
Yes.
have you on. You know, if you're Palestinian and you practice the threes, holler at us. But of course, as always, thank you so much for listening to Tatreez Talk. We do want to hear about your Tatreez journeys, so please share your stories with us at tatreeztalk@gmail.com, and we will have you on an upcoming episode. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast on your favorite listening platform, and be sure to leave us a 5-star review. You can follow me at Min Amani and Lena at Lena's Thobe, and of course you can follow the pod at Tatreez Talk. We'll talk to you soon.